We as Palestinians are categorically denied the right to narrate our own lived experiences, instead dismissed as biased or exaggerating as the bodies pile up, while instead the statements of the military of the apartheid regime are taken as fact, never challenged, and repeated even when proven false. Worse, the US and Israel, who have seemed to decide our fate for us without our input, casually shop around ethnic cleansing blueprint plans for Gaza, while Israel awards exploration licenses for billions of dollars of Gazan gas. And yet they know not the first thing about us. Do they know about our origin? That the history of Gaza and Palestine more generally is a deep, rich history of more than 4,000 years? That our land was inhabited and invaded by epic civilizations of whom we are all descendants? From the ancient people of the Mediterranean Sea to the Canaanites, to the ancient Egyptians, the Philistines, the Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Persians, then the different Muslim empires like the Arabs led by Umar ibn al-Khattab, and the Umayyads, the Abbasids, and the invading crusaders driven out of the land by the fierce resistant Salah ad-Din. And then came the Mamluks followed by the Ottomans. Do they know that these are our ancestors? My own family traces our lineage in Gaza back to at least the 13th century. My parents were born in Gaza, all 4 of my grandparents were too, and so on, going back generations. My family is from the Zaytun and Ramal neighborhood in the northern part of Gaza. Do they know that despite the fact that Israel has prevented me from entering Gaza on multiple occasions, that despite the fact that Israel has flattened nearly our entire neighborhood, along with the majority of northern Gaza in the last 6 weeks, that I, like all Palestinians in forced exile, have never and will never abandon the right to return to our land? Do they understand the meaning of asserting these words during the Nakba of 2023, when the scope of killing and displacement has already exceeded that of the Nakba of 1948? We will never back down. Do they know that while the elderly may have died, the young didn't forget? How could we, as the Nakba continues 75 years later? Do they know that Gaza is known in the region as Gaza Ard al-Azza, Gaza, the land of dignity, the land of pride? Do they know that dignity cannot be bought, faked, or seized by force? Do they know that in this moment, when I speak to my family and friends in Gaza, they are the ones checking on me? That not a day or an hour goes by where Palestinians in Gaza don't thank God? That everyone is sharing everything that they have? That a few days ago, a Palestinian couple celebrated a wedding at one of the UN schools containing thousands of forcibly displaced Palestinians? A beautiful act of resistance when you consider the fact that Israel outlaws expressions of Palestinian joy. It is an arrestable offense for which our brothers and sisters in the occupied West Bank are regularly taken hostage. Does the Western corporate media know that one of the last things that Muntasir as-Sawaf, one of the Palestinian journalists who was killed yesterday by Israel, did was feed the starving cats in his neighborhood that Israeli warplanes turned to dust? Do they know that Israel has killed 72 journalists in this genocide and prevents foreign journalists from entering Gaza to bear witness to their war against the Palestinian people? Do these leaders of the Western world, trapped somewhere between individualism, consumerism, capitalism, and materialism, understand that we leave our doors open in times of Israeli bombardment, in case one of our neighbors needs to hide and seek shelter? Do they know that we all know each other? And that each family killed or injured in an Israeli airstrike generates a burning, searing pain which reverberates across all of Palestinian society on the ground and in exile? Do they know that when injuries from an Israeli airstrike arrive to the hospital, you will hear one of two things? Darmin, Darmin. Which family? Which family house was hit? Because that's what Israel is doing. You'll also hear the urgent call, Aish, Aish, they're still alive. Act quickly. Do the so-called pro-lifers know that we keep playing with our children on top of the rubble of our destroyed homes? Do you know that we are promising our children we will build better homes? Do you know that we are asking our martyred children for forgiveness? Like yesterday, forgive me, my son, if there's anything I didn't do for you. Forgive me. Do they know that every night before bed for the last 56 days, we continue to dress our children in their best pajamas, style their hair, and brush their teeth because life must go on, even during a genocide? Does the world know that our grandchildren are the souls of our souls? Does the world know that we dream of the day when we will finally be free to experience the luxury of the mundane? A life which cycles between school, work, sports, and after-school activities, family gatherings, and summer vacations, and not settler colonialism, apartheid, and genocide. When we can drive from Gaza to Jerusalem, from Jenin to Jaffa. Do the US and Israel know that even though we haven't lived free for one single day in 75 years, that we still deeply love this life? Do people understand that there is nothing more dignified than a people insisting on their right to live during a genocide? Do they realize that Palestine will be free because apartheid is not a sustainable form of governance? Do the Zionists know that history will not look kindly on them because they have tried to convince the world that we are animals in order to justify our ethnic cleansing and manufacture consent for their genocide? But do they know that every person in history who has ever tried to convince the world that a group of people were animals was always proven to be the oppressor by the historical record? As we struggle for a permanent, immediate ceasefire, an end to the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, and the dismantling of Israel's apartheid regime, so that freedom becomes a reality for all people who live from the river to the sea, let my remarks be a reminder in the equal importance of witnessing not only our suffering in this moment, but also our deep humanity, our dignity. Because witnessing humanity is an act of resistance against colonial violence designed to strip a people of their humanity, against colonial powers working overtime to convince you that this genocidal reality is inevitable. My message to you today is that it is not. Rather, freedom is inevitable. So please continue in this moment to do the single most important thing that you can do by displaying unapologetic, unequivocal political solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people who are a symbol of hope and dignity for all oppressed people worldwide.